Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take the sources you send us and, well, we dig in to give you the key takeaways. Today we're focusing on Thailand, specifically the political and economic scene under Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra.
Yeah, and we've got quite a mix of sources for this one. News reports from Post Today, Nation Thailand.
Right.
Some analysis from Control Risks, an article via Thai PBS World, even a government press release, and interestingly, a Reddit discussion to get a feel for public opinion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for you, the learner, listening in, the mission today is really to get past the surface noise. We want to build a proper understanding of where Thailand's headed, the challenges, the potential future under Paetongtarn.
Okay. So where should we start? Maybe with Paetongtarn's own vision.
Good idea. Her policy address to Parliament, that was September 2024, right? Nation Thailand covered it.
That's the one. She basically pledged to continue the previous government's 10 urgent policies. The focus was economic revival.
And those policies covered a lot of ground, didn't they? Things like debt restructuring.
Yeah, the digital wallet initiative, which got a lot of press.
Huge amount. Also reducing energy costs, pushing tourism, including those entertainment complexes.
Right, which are somewhat controversial.
Yeah.
Plus tackling drugs and crime and boosting social welfare. A broad agenda.
And what were her stated goals? What was the big picture?
Well, pretty ambitious stuff. Restoring strong economic growth, for one. Increasing income, both nationally and, for individuals.
Okay.
Developing new economic engines, new industries, and keeping things stable economically.
But it wasn't all smooth sailing. The opposition, the People's Party, Nathathong Rongpanyawat leading them. They had some sharp words.
They did, yeah. Also reported by Nation Thailand, they called the previous government's track record disappointing.
Ouch.
And argued that these policies, well, they mainly help the big boss, middlemen, and capitalists. Not the general population, was their point.
Any specific criticisms?
Yeah, they questioned how effective the drug suppression efforts really were. And they pointed to splits within the coalition, specifically the Bumjaitai Party, the blue camp over those entertainment complexes, suggests not everyone's on the same page, even within the government.
Interesting. Okay, let's shift gears a bit to the economy itself. According to Post Today, back in March 2025, the Prime Minister said pretty positive about GDP growth.
She did. She highlighted 3.2% growth in Q4 of 2024.
Okay.
And 2.5% for the whole year 2024, which, was better than 2023.
But 2.5%, how does that stack up regionally? Because there was some concern there, right?
Exactly. That's the kicker. Even with that growth, there's this acknowledgement that Thailand's actually lagging behind its ASEAN peers.
Why is that?
The PM herself suggested it's because they haven't really prepared for new industries over the last decade. So, yeah, 2.5% is growth, but maybe not the kind of dynamic growth seen elsewhere in the region. Raises questions.
So what's the plan to catch up? What are they doing?
Well, the government's actively trying to stimulate investment in, high potential sectors. Think semiconductors, EVs, electric vehicles, and the whole EV component supply chain.
Are they looking at what neighbors are doing?
Apparently so. They mentioned Malaysia's focus on building semiconductor skills and Vietnam's success in software development as examples, sort of learning from the neighbors.
Makes sense. But how do they actually make this happen? Investment needs skilled workers, support for businesses.
Right. And the government knows public-private partnerships are key here, especially for skills development and helping out SMEs, the smaller businesses.
But is the money there? Budgets are tight, aren't they?
That's the challenge, Post Today pointed out. Limited government budgets. And they really need the commercial banks to step up and increase lending to these crucial sectors.
And what about foreign money, foreign investment?
That's a huge part of the strategy. They reported over 1 trillion baht in foreign investment in 2024.
Wow, 1 trillion.
Yeah, apparently the highest in 10 years. And they're getting interest from big tech names. Google, TikTok, NVIDIA were mentioned.
Okay, so attracting money. What about moving goods? Infrastructure.
Also key, big plans there, like the land bridge project and high-speed rail. The idea, according to Post Today, is to cut export costs and just make the whole system more efficient. Better competitiveness long-term.
Let's talk agriculture for a moment. It's massive in terms of land and people. Right?
Huge. About 47% of the land employs something like 10 million farmers.
But its GDP contribution isn't proportional.
Exactly. Only about 9% of GDP. The PM acknowledged this issue, farmers working incredibly hard but earning relatively little.
So what's the government doing about that? Any specific measures?
They're putting more focus on R&D, research and development, trying to improve the quality and value of crops, livestock,
Yeah.
things like precision agriculture, using tech for more efficient farming.
Hmm.
And they have these, well, pretty grand ambitions, like making Thai fruits as prestigious as French wine through better processing, creating value-added products.
French wine status for Thai fruit. Interesting. Anything else?
Yeah, promoting more diverse coffee cultivation, too. And expanding that Thai Select program.
Oh, yeah, the restaurant awards.
Right. Giving stars to Thai restaurants worldwide if they use authentic Thai ingredients. It's a continuation of the whole kitchen of the world idea, using food as diplomacy, or gastro-diplomacy, as they call it.
Okay, fascinating stuff on the economic front. Let's pivot back to politics. There was talk of a cabinet reshuffle, and Thaksin Shinawatra's name keeps popping up.
Yes, Nation Thailand covered this back in January 2025. There's a very strong perception that key political players often go to consult Thaksin at his residence, Ban Chan Song La.
Suggesting he still pulls a lot of strings, even strategically.
That's the implication,
Wow.
that his thinking, his influence is still very much part of the equation, potentially shaping decisions.
And historically, reshuffles were quite common when he was PM, weren't they?
Very often, like every 6 months or so, sometimes to reward allies, sometimes to, well, get rid of ministers who weren't performing. It was a tool for control, really.
But things are different now for few Thai.
Definitely. They don't have that massive majority they used to. Fewer MPs, much more reliant on coalition partners. So shuffling the cabinet is a trickier balancing act these days, much more complex.
And there's pressure from the opposition, too. A no-confidence motion looming.
Yeah, expected late February or early March 2025 from the People's Party, that could absolutely trigger a reshuffle, especially if there's already dissatisfaction with certain ministers' performance.
Is the dissatisfaction just from the opposition or internal, too?
Seems like both. There's reported scrutiny even within few Thai ranks. Someone like Jiraporn Sinduprai, attached to the PM's office, was mentioned. It's delicate, challenging Thaksin's influence directly is probably unlikely, but there's a sense that changes might be needed.
Any specific ministers really under fire?
The foreign minister, Mari Sangiampongsa, faced quite a bit of criticism, especially over that incident with the Myanmar fishing boats and the failure to get the Thai crew released quickly.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
The reports mentioned Chusak Siranin, Somsak Thepsathin, Sidoan Wengsupaket Kasol, Surapong Piachot. Quite a few names being floated.
And it's not just few Thai ministers, coalition partners, too.
Potentially. Names like Permpun Chidshab, Napantorn Srisanpang, and Sukart Chongklin from partner parties were also mentioned as possibly being replaced due to, well, perceived underperformance.
And could Thaksin use this reshuffle to push his own agenda or the party's promises?
That's the speculation, that he might push for ministry swaps with coalition partners. For example, maybe getting control of the Ministry of Labor to speed up that promised 600 baht daily minimum wage, which has apparently been slow going.
So this reshuffle, if it happens, is a pretty critical moment for Paetongtarn then.
Absolutely. Seen as a chance to really stamp her authority, maybe consolidate her position, and give Futai some fresh energy looking ahead to the 2030 elections.
That analysis from Control Risks back in August 2024 seems relevant here, reminding us she's the fourth Shinawatra PM.
Right. And the pressure is immense to, avoid the pitfalls that tripped up her predecessors. So how this cabinet is formed, the strategy behind it, it's huge. And it directly impacts foreign investment, economic policy direction, all of it.
Okay, let's talk about the people. Public opinion. We looked at that archived Reddit discussion. What was the general vibe about the Shinawatra family, keeping in mind its archive, of course?
Well, what really stood out was the regional split. Strong support, it seems, in Aizen in the north.
But less so in Bangkok.
Much less so. And this seems tied directly to Thaksin's populist policies back in the day, which really energized rural voters who maybe weren't as engaged before.
What about his style? How was that perceived in the discussion?
People mentioned his sort of CEO-like approach top-down, maybe less about negotiation and corruption. Well, there was general agreement. It happened.
The debate about the scale or the prosecution.
Exactly. Was it worse than others or just targeted more? Differing views on that.
Any specific policies mentioned frequently?
Oh, yeah, the Golden Card, the 30-baht healthcare scheme, came up again and again as hugely popular, especially rurally. Of course, there's also strong conservative opposition to the Shinawatras, and even a far-left view mentioned, seeing them as kind of playing the system, paying homage while fighting it.
Interesting takes. What about the idea of him building a new power base?
That came up too. The idea he was trying to create influence outside the traditional Bangkok elite. Someone even used the term robber baron, maybe questionable methods, but delivered some good for the poor. But again, others saw the policies as just scams, very divided.
How about Yingluck and Paetongtarn specifically?
Yingluck, opinions varied. Some saw her as a puppet, others just less politically skilled than Thaksin. Paetongtarn, seen as fresh, but
But still under her father's shadow.
yeah, that skepticism was definitely there. Concerns about his influence, plus her relative inexperience was noted. And that futile blockchain healthcare policy. Lots of doubt about that online.
So the family itself is seen as quite polarizing.
Definitely. Divisive dynasty was a term used. Someone even compared them to the Addams family, which gives you a sense of the strong, maybe slightly eccentric family image in politics.
Did people feel Pheu Thai needed to move on from the family?
Some did, yeah. A feeling that maybe the party needs to broaden its appeal beyond the Shinawatra name. And a really crucial point someone made. The charges against Thaksin and Yingluck could be seen as both politically motivated and having some basis in fact. It's complex. Okay, last big area. Thailand's place in the world, ASEAN, and globally. What are Paetongtarn's priorities for the region?
Based on that PRD release from October 2024, the focus seems to be on connectivity. Better transport links across ASEAN, harmonizing standards, making it easier for people to move around, all to boost trade and investment.
Right, and for that ASEAN summit in Laos, there were 4 main goals, weren't there?
Yeah. Simplify trade and tax rules within ASEAN. Position ASEAN as a neutral ground for sorting out conflicts, build up a really comprehensive logistics network, and tackle environmental issues together.
And Thailand sees itself as a gateway.
Very much so. A key entry point for foreign investors wanting access to that whole ASEAN market, especially seeing interest in EVs and data centers, as we mentioned.
And the food industry focus extends regionally, too.
Yes, strengthening the food sector across Thailand and ASEAN, partly framed as contributing to global food security. And looking longer term, Paetongtarn talked at that Bangkok Coast Forum in December 2024 about moving Thailand beyond just mass production.
Shifting to higher value.
Exactly. Playing to Thailand's unique strengths. Its location, a natural hub, a bridge between East and West.
And its resources and culture.
Right. Leveraging the kitchen of the world idea further. Boosting wellness tourism, attracting digital nomads, retirees, that kind of thing.
Technology fits in there somewhere too, presumably.
Big time. Focus on data centers, cloud computing, AI, cybersecurity. The strategy involves, updating regulations, developing skilled workers, supporting startups, adopting international standards, the whole package for a tech future.
Okay, one last piece, the U.S. trade situation. How's Thailand handling the new measures under President Trump, the reciprocal tariff stuff?
Well, according to Nation Thailand in April 2025, they were pretty proactive. They set up a specific U.S. trade policy task force way back in January 2025.
Getting ahead of it, what's their approach?
Their motto seems to be knowing them, knowing us, swift and precise. Really understanding the U.S. position, understanding their own situation, and acting decisively.
Who's leading that effort?
The Deputy PM and Finance Minister, Pichai Chunawatra, was appointed to lead talks with the USTR.
And what are they actually doing?
Collecting a lot of data, watching reactions internationally and at home, and planning. Both short-term relief measures and longer-term strategies like structural reforms and finding new export markets. Diversification.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, quite a complex picture. We've touched on Paetongtarn's economic plans, the huge shadow of the Shinawatra family.
Right. The really diverse public opinion shaped by region and class.
Thailand's strategic ambitions in ASEAN and how they're navigating these big global trade shifts.
It really feels like Thailand's at a crossroads, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Trying to balance its traditional strengths with this urgent need to innovate in a world that's changing incredibly fast.
Absolutely. Which leads us to a final thought, maybe for you listening to mull over. Given everything we've discussed, the deep political roots, the economic goals, the family dynamics, what single thing, if you had to pick one, do you think will ultimately decide whether Paetongtarn's leadership succeeds and where Thailand heads next?
Yeah. Is it the internal politics? Is it getting the economic policies right on the ground? Or is it those external global pressures that end up being the deciding factor? Something to think about.